Back tonight on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Western Cape Premier Winde has expressed shock at what he calls horrific and deep-rooted links between police and gangs. It follows a Daily Maverick expose which reveals how the 28 gangs have infiltrated police management, accessing confidential information on investigations. The Premier joins us now to share his views on the matter. Premier, it's not just the Daily Maverick expose, but of course it's the judgment coming from the Western Cape High Court that is particularly concerning. Good evening, and thank you very much for your time. Judge Tulare is saying these words: the evidence suggests that senior management of the South African Police Service in the province has been penetrated to the extent that the 28 gang has access to the table where the Provincial Commissioner of the South African Police Service in the Western Cape sits with his senior managers and leads them in the study of crime, develops crime prevention strategies, and decides on tactics and approaches to the safety and security of the inhabitants of the Western Cape. I mean, are you particularly surprised that there is that degree of penetration in as far as the South African Police Service is concerned in the Western Cape?
You know, there have always been these rumors, and you've seen, you spoke about the Daily Maverick. We've seen journalists writing books. When you walk the streets, an auntie will tell you that it's that corner, it's that apartment, this is what happens and how it happens, and that they're involved in the police. But, when you read it in a judgment, in a court case where a judge is summing up that court case in making a ruling, I mean, just listening to you reading parts of that, that was paragraph 70 that you just read out now from that judgment. Your blood goes cold, you boils, it just is all these emotions because you hear it all the time, and now suddenly here it is in hard, written fact in a court judgment. You cannot ignore this. This is actually, for me, that trigger. Yeah. So that's why I've asked our Provincial Ombudsman, I've said, take 14 days, go and analyze every single bit of evidence in this case, and let me know, what is your finding, and is that sufficient for me to then launch a commission of inquiry, or what are the other actions I can take? Quite frankly, we've been arguing about policing powers. We've been arguing about effectiveness of policing. We've been arguing about how many police officers, men and women, have deployed to this region because we see gangsterism, the murders that goes with it, the levels of drug dealing, the extortion that goes around this illegal component in our region. And then you read this and you hear, and this says that the gangsters are sitting at the main table of policing. I mean, it just really is unbelievable. And we have to root this out. I mean, this cannot be. It cannot be allowed. And so that's why I've asked for this investigation, a quick investigation to give me the evidence to make up my mind.
Yeah. In terms of power as a province, I mean, you would know that as the Premier, you have the power to appoint an executive who will oversee the responsibility of ensuring that the police do what they need to do. And the MEC has got powers to veto the appointment of a provincial police commissioner. In fact, it says there, the MEC shall approve or veto the appointment of the relevant provincial commissioner in terms of section 218, subsection 1B of the Constitution, or may, if the provincial commissioner has lost confidence of the Executive Council, institute appropriate proceedings against the said commissioner in accordance with the law. How come you've never taken this action?
Okay, so in this case, that's why I want this information. Remember that this case that is being reported on, or the Judge Tulani's judgment, comes from 2016. So it comes from a time back, a previous commissioner in place at that stage. But we do have those powers. We also have powers, from vetoing an appointment. We have powers right the way up to this commission of inquiry. So that's why I've asked for the study. We need to go back and have a look. Is the current police commissioner, is he the one that was in place at that time? Has he done anything? Of course, we've got a process to go through that gives us that information, and then it will enable both the MEC, Minister Regan Allen, and myself and our cabinet to apply our minds to this, and then I obviously will be able to act. He will be able to act within our various powers based on the Constitution.
So, of course, this investigation going to rattle some political powers who are in charge and responsible to an extent for the management of the South African Police Service. What legal standing is the investigator that you are putting over this in terms of finding out this information, and do they have the clearance to be able to get the kind of information that you require?
Okay, so we have in our province a Community Safety Act, so we have passed legislation in our province that empowers a police ombudsman. So we have this independent body that is set up by the province, funded by the province, and it is headed up at the moment by General Oswald Reddy. He is an ex-policeman who heads up this unit, and he has the powers to do this investigation through our own Provincial Act. And then, of course, once he's completed his investigation, then we can either apply our local or our provincial acts, our provincial legislation, or even the Constitution and national legislation.
Yeah. Are you saying the ombud that you have put together as province trumps IPIT? Wouldn't you say this is the area of IPIT that they should be investigating?
Okay, so, I mean, obviously IPIT also could have a role here. Minister Regan Allen actually did meet with IPIT on Wednesday morning. He actually met with IPIT just before he and I met to have the discussion around speaking to General Reddy. I then gave General Reddy a call and then formally asked him to do this investigation in writing. So obviously, and then Minister Allen, obviously he is, our provincial, as you said, the Constitution gives the province oversight and plays an oversight role. So we produce a policing needs and priorities report every year according to legislation. We then submit it to the national minister, who then can effect policy changes, bring about changes. I must say that we haven't had a lot of joy through that process, but it's what we do. And in actual fact, I in the last while have called for a change, even having our provincial MEC, who's normally the Minister of Community Safety. We've actually changed that and actually called it Police Oversight and Community Safety. So MC Allen meets with the police regularly, goes on site to conduct oversight, etc. That's what we do at the moment. So already he has certain interactions. I myself have not interacted with a police commissioner since reading this. I think I will stay away from it until I get the report from General Reddy. But of course, in the meantime, our MEC will continue interacting his oversight role. But what I really can't understand is we've seen this court judgment. I haven't heard anything from the National Police Commissioner. I haven't heard anything from the police minister or even the president. I mean, these are very, very, very serious allegations that your senior, because in that report it says not only junior rankings but senior rankings, and as you say, sitting at the table where the provincial commissioner, that's where we sit with crime intelligence. That's where we sit with the anti-gang unit. That's the space where we try to manage safety plans in making our citizens safer. And of course, it seems like the gangsters sit right at that level. Yeah.
So are you saying, in your mind, there's no doubt that at this point there is some action that should be coming from either Minister Begitele or from the President himself?
Well, can you imagine if policing was my responsibility? I mean, I would imagine that everybody would be contacting me to say, what are you doing about it? This is on your watch. Well, quite frankly, this is happening on Minister Begitele's watch. That's why I think, again, I think heads must roll here. The crime in our country just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Murder rates going up, extortion rates going up. I mean, it is unbelievable. Gangsterism, the crime that goes with it, families feeling the brunt of it, specifically here, the gangsterism, and now you hear this statement that gangs are in the top management echelons of our police. I mean, heads must roll.
The South African Police Service Legal Services in the Western Cape, according to the Daily Maverick, said they are currently looking at the judgment that has been cited now, even in this conversation, and they are saying they are reserving to outright respond on this matter at this particular stage. Do you think that they might want to challenge at least that part of this judgment?
I don't know, but I would imagine that something much more urgent should have happened by now. I mean, this has been many days now since we've seen this court judgment, and we're reserving our right and looking at the judgment. I mean, we need to see some action here. I mean, these are very, very serious allegations. They're not even allegations. These are very serious statements in a court finding by a judge.
Does this in any way, I mean, for you, also amplify the suspicions, for example, around the murder and assassination of Detective Charles Kinnear, who was investigating such underworld activity, that this could possibly explain how he was infiltrated in a sense?
So exactly. I mean, those are the immediate things that come to mind. We saw the murder or assassination of Charles Kinnear. And as I said in the beginning, we've had so many rumors, so many people talk about these things, that there is this connection. And, then you say to yourself, well, I mean, here you've actually got it for the first time in written format from a judgment, from a court case. It really starts to concretize these rumors. And so, of course, all of those things start to come together, and that's why we need to say, what do we need to do about this? Yeah. Is there sufficient evidence to put a full commission of inquiry in place? How deep must this investigation go? I mean, they talk about across all echelons of our policing here in the province. How entrenched is it in other provinces? How far does it go? Up the chain towards the National Commissioner. I mean, there are a whole lot of questions that come out of the statement. So really, I think we need very quick action on this.
What we have seen, for example, in SOEs and even in the Hawks, even in the NPA itself, the challenges of rooting out rogue elements that are already existing in the system takes a while. Others would tell you that even today, for example, the Hawks and the NPA are not necessarily completely rid of these rogue elements. Some still do exist in the system. If found that rogue-style unit police officers do exist in the Western Cape and are linked to crime intelligence and are linked to these gangsters, what action do you think you could possibly take to root them out?
Well, obviously, I mean, that's what we need to do, is to say, how do we identify it? If you do identify it, this comes down to management. You need to be able to clean things out. You need to be able to put people through processes, root out the guilty parties, and actually, this is the chance. Once you get into, if we are able to have a commission of inquiry, let's dig right down as deep as we can. Let's make sure that we create this open, transparent space where people can come forward, where in actual fact we can actually clean this up. Because while this seems to be how things are run, you will never ever build a safer environment. And I think this leads straight to the call that I've been making for a very long time, to say that in actual fact, we need to decide in this country, how policing is managed. I do believe absolutely that, provinces should have much more managerial powers. I believe that, there should be a federal overlaying police component. There should be probably crime intelligence at that level, but at provincial level, for example, the policing in the Western Cape calls for different kinds of policing to, say, the Free State or KwaZulu-Natal. And so you need to be able to have unique management styles and operations for the specific crime areas that you have in your specific provinces. I do believe that we need to relook at the policing model. And then, of course, if provinces are not able to do what they're supposed to do, well, then that's when national steps in. This is the difficulty when the roles are reversed. So I have in this province with the MEC an oversight role over the police. One almost feels when you read this that it's like the wool gets pulled over your eyes because you're not able to dig in. You're not able to be in those joint operation command meetings. You get exited from those kind of management meetings, and that shouldn't be. We should make sure that management changes, because the current system is not working. The current system, crime gets worse. Every single quarter when the national minister gives the murder reports, you will see across the country murder keeps going up. In the last quarter it was 11% increase, and the one before it was 29% increase. The only place in South Africa, bar one rural town in KZN, is where the province has got a safety plan in place where we're deploying extra boots, extra police officers through a law enforcement program in partnership with the City of Cape Town. Only in those deployment areas are we seeing plateauing or decrease in murder across the whole country. It starts to show you that, in actual fact, if you use data and evidence and different policing management systems, you can start to change things. And we're doing that with 1,300 safety officers versus the 20,000 police men and women in our province. And we're starting to get those changes, those force multipliers. So I really do believe that, this is probably that judgment that's going to lead to a process where we really start to interrogate, how policing takes place, what kind of oversight there is, so that we actually don't allow this kind of thing to happen. You cannot have gangsters determining your policing, plans and your policing anti-crime fighting. It just cannot be.
Premier, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Premier of the Western Cape, Alan Winde, there, on the actions to be taken following that judgment, scathing judgment coming out of the Western Cape High Court on what is, of course, the first kind of solid evidence presented in a court judgment of some dodgy existing relationship between the Western Cape Police and the 28 gang. In a moment.